Hi, it's Dan here, and I'm so hyped to be off for a few days. It has been a long and busy week. Been going to Tateyama the past week, and basically the days have been from 5:30 in the morning, and I've been getting back at 7 in the evening. So yeah, I'm pretty tired, and it's just really nice to have this wee bit of time to relax. Plus, with my last trip up to the mountain, I came back with a really awesome souvenir, and that is a cold. So yeah, my throat's feeling pretty sore right now, but yeah, I'd want to power through with the video and kind of just give a few tips and some information about Mount Tateyama and the snow walls. So that way, if anyone's interested, they can be totally prepared to make the long journey. Let's get stuck into the video. Mount Tateyama, located in Toyama Prefecture, is one of Japan's 3 holy mountains. It was and still is an active pilgrimage site. Without going into too much detail, essentially it would provide spiritual empowerment to those who successfully climb it and visit the shrine at the peak known as Oyama. Naturally, on the tour guiding team, we do not hike up the mountain. Thank goodness, because I would not fancy that. I can barely cope with the bus journey up and down the mountain, let alone hiking it. Basically, if you go to the snow wall, you're going to be up about approximately 2,450 meters. So how do you get up the mountain? There's 2 ways to do it. Let's start with the first and more complicated way, and that is by driving a car to Tateyama Station, leaving your car there, getting a train or cable car about a third of the way up the mountain, and then transferring onto a busy coach. That alone would take a crazy amount of time. Plus, with the amount of crowds that go to Mount Tateyama to see the snow wall, you would need to get used to waiting in line for your various modes of transportation. You're probably wondering, why can't I drive my car up to the mountain itself? The short answer is simply, you can't. You're not allowed to. So let's talk about the other way you can get up the mountain, and it is by far the easiest. That is by going as part of a tour group. By going on a tour up the mountain, you will obviously be on a bus. Thanks to that, you don't need to do any of that transfer. You're skipping all of the steps I mentioned in the previous option. You'll start your tour at a predetermined location as by your tour company, get on your tour bus and zip straight up the mountain. You'll go right to what is called Murodo Station, which is really just where the snow wall is. So yeah, thank flip I don't need to do any of the other steps. Another important thing to mention regarding the first and more complicated step is that those various modes of transportation actually get booked up really quickly. So going with the tour group is probably the best bet. For those of you still watching the video, you'll likely notice that going up the mountain has a lot of twisty turns and corners. You're probably thinking, wow, that would really give me some travel sickness. If you thought that and you do get travel sickness, then yeah, you're probably right. You will likely get travel sickness. How do I know? Because I also get travel sickness on the likes of cars and buses. The twisty corners and rapidly going up a mountain are a perfect recipe for feeling kind of nauseous. A very, very small amount of people on the tours so far have felt that way going up and down the mountain. So of course, if you are considering going up to the snow wall and you do get a wee bit of motion sickness, then of course use your best judgment and prepare accordingly. If you do end up going as part of a tour group, then communicate with your tour guide and they would happily put on the cold air if you're feeling uncomfortable. I know I'm very happy to put the cold air on. Also, from the bottom of the mountain to the very top, which is the Murodo Station, it takes about an hour and 20 minutes, and of course it's the same for going back down the mountain. If you've made it this far, please do leave a wee like and subscribe. It really does help me and the channel out. So yeah, thank you. Anyway, back to the video. If you do end up going as part of a tour group, when your tour bus gets to the end point, which is Murodo Station, chances are, if it's not too busy in the touristy area, then that tour bus will be able to stay in the main car park, which would allow you to kind of just use the tour bus as you please, maybe to get out of the crowds or have a wee bit of a packed lunch on the bus. That's sometimes what I suggest to my guests if the tour bus is able to remain at the main car park. When it is a sunny and clear day, the mountain snow and the snow walls can create a really intense glare from the sun. Basically, imagine solar flare being spammed in Dragon Ball Z, and that will give you a bit of an idea of the punishment your eyes are going to be receiving. The temperature in the mountain can range from 1 degree Celsius all the way to 15 degrees Celsius, and that's my experience so far. So if that morning you choose to wear light clothes at your starting point, please do make sure to bring either some thermals or even a jumper to put on, because the mountain can be really cold. You could then get changed in the restroom area. Also bring a cap and maybe a knitted hat, just to really give your head a wee bit of a break from the sun that'll constantly be beating down on it. Sun cream wouldn't be a bad idea too, because the UV rays are actually pretty strong. You would not be the first person to be caught off guard and end up getting sunburned. That now brings us to the snow wall itself. If you want to see the snow wall at its highest, then you're best going in the month of May. This year it is at a recorded 16 meters high. So yeah, it's pretty damn awesome. However, it does change yearly, as it really depends on how much snow has fallen during the winter. People do still visit the tourist area in June, but naturally the snow wall decreases over time, and this June it'll likely make its way down to about 10 meters. You can also draw on the snow wall, which is kind of cool. You can write a wee message, advertise your YouTube or Instagram, give in to temptation and draw something completely weird. I don't know, it's everyone's choice. When walking back from the snow wall, you can also walk along the edge of the mountain. It can be super slippery, so naturally be careful. There are also deck chairs set up to overlook the mountain scenery, and at that location you'll be served tea, but it does cost approximately 500 yen to have that experience. So that's a good segue to bring us to the eating options. If you like good food and quiet places, then this is not the place for you. Do what I do and bring a packed lunch. From what I've noticed, there are 3 places to eat. There is 1 restaurant and 2 cafes. Oh, and there is a steamed buns stall where there is a sitting area located behind it. I've had the steamed buns before. Now let's recap. I do get car sick. That's enough said about the steamed buns. So if you're a picky eater, get motion sickness, or just don't want to be waiting around in lines for ages to get into the cafes and restaurant area, then bring a packed lunch. There are 2 souvenir areas, one on the ground floor and then one on the next floor up. Avoid the souvenir shop in the ground floor. It is too busy, cramped, and there's not a lot of selection. Go to the next floor up, as there's more space and a much better selection. It also sells caps and sunglasses there, so if you weren't prepared for the trip, that's a good place to go. There's also an onsen in the area. Once you go up to the second store in the main building that is known as Murodo Station, there will be an exit to your left. Go up the slope and keep walking straight ahead. Eventually, you will notice a building in the distance. That is actually an onsen. However, it is a bit tricky to get to, as you need to go down what is a rather steep slope. Of course, you really do need to be careful and hope that you're wearing appropriate footwear for going down that slope. If you are making your way to the onsen, then you'll notice steam and gases in the distance. That is sulfur gases. There are many warnings in the area and signs telling you to be aware because they can be toxic. The onsen part of the area is near a location called Jigokudani, which is essentially named after Buddhist hell in Japanese. Tateyama Mountain is one big symbolic imagery for Buddhist hell and Buddhist Pure Land, which is something akin to heaven. The area naturally leans very heavily in religious meaning and has major implications for what is essentially a Japanese religious pilgrimage. I just want to mention a few other important things. I've done this Tateyama tour a few times, so I just want to share a wee bit more of my experience that might help a few other people. But keep in mind, I'm not a medical professional, so I can only really speak from my experience. So basically, I get migraines, and being high up in the mountain and surrounded by what is just the sun reflecting off a lot of snow, it gives me some of the most uncomfortable migraines I've ever had. So if you're susceptible to migraines, use your best judgment prior to going on the trip and be prepared. I also do feel a wee bit of nausea up the mountain as well, but that could be a combination of my travel sickness and also the fact that I do get migraines. I'm not entirely certain if it is to do with the altitude or not, as I'm up 2,450 meters when I'm doing the tour. So I suppose if anyone watching this does go hiking or go up mountains regularly, you could maybe provide some insight. Also, one other thing, the toilet situation up in the mountain. There are not a lot of toilets up there. In the main building, there are toilets on the ground floor and then the next floor up. However, them toilets are flipping stinking. People clearly do not know how to aim or clean up after themselves. I have heard the women's toilets are not much better. However, next to the main building, there is a museum, and there are toilets on the ground floor that aren't really used, so naturally the conditions are a bit better. So yeah, keep that in mind. Anyway, if you have made it this far, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please do leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you are a regular viewer, remember to hit that wee notification bell, as it will make sure you stay up to date as to when I release a video. Also, please comment below if you have went mountain climbing, hiking, or even skiing. What would your advice be to people who haven't done so before? How can they be best prepared for going up a high altitude that they're not used to? Anyway, thanks again for watching and take care.